Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the writing section. We're just going to do a quick introduction and talk about some of the questions that the writing section has and just some general tips and strategies. So the writing section for the SAT is 44 questions and it's 35 minutes. So if you do the math, that averages to about 47 seconds per question. So the writing question tests you on the writing section tests you on basically just grammar, sentence structure, stuff like that. You're not actually writing. It's just testing you if you know how to write with multiple choice questions. So the official College Board types of questions that the writing section has. This is the questions that the College Board says they test you on. They test you on sentence structure, which includes things like verb agreement, parallelism, transitions, etc. They test you on if you know how to properly use words. So that's things like knowing the difference between words that are similar, like affect and effect, or pronouns that are similar, like there and there. And they also test you on punctuation. And then I think that there's another type of question that they have that doesn't fit those categories. So this is an unofficial type of question, one that I made up, but that I believe you have to know about. It's questions about effectiveness. They ask you things that just basically asking you, like, does this sentence work where it is and why does it work? And this category also kind of includes questions about organization of a paragraph, and we'll go over these questions. So this is an example of an appropriate usage of words question. So this one, you can see if we read it, given these solutions as well as the many health benefits of the food, the advantages of Greek yogurt outdo the potential drawbacks of its production. And then the answer choices are just defeat, outperform, outweigh. So they're just testing you which word works best here. Do you know how to use words? Do you know what word works best in the sentence? Should you use the word outdo? Should you use defeat? Should you use outperform? Or should you use outweigh? That's an example of an appropriate usage of words question. An example of a sentence structure would be this one, which choice provides the most relevant detail. So this reason this is a sentence structure question is because it's asking you, is the structure of the sentence good? Is it relevant? Does it work for this passage? So that's what they're really trying to test you on. And then another example on punctuation and sentence structure. The first one, they're both kind of punctuation, both sentence structure. So number 3, it wants you to know if you know how to use if you know how to use apostrophes. You can see in B, C, and D, the way they write waterways is different. And then also sentence structure. Do you know how to use verbs? Which verb should you use? You can see in question 3, the answer choices are can pollute waterways, could have polluted waterways, has polluted waterways. So do you know which verb you should use? That's an example of sentence structure. And number 4, they also want you to know if you know how to use a colon or a comma. That's punctuation, and then that number 4 is mostly just a punctuation question. And then here's an example of an effectiveness question. And remember, this is not something official. The College Board doesn't say that this is an official type of question, but I think it should be considered that type of question because it just doesn't fall under the other ones, and I want to make sure you know that you're going to be tested on this. So effectiveness is an example of it. The writer is considering... Sorry, that was my phone. The writer is considering deleting the underlined sentence. Should the writer do this? So what this is really asking you is just, is this sentence effective? If it's not, why? So that's really all it's asking you. Another type of effectiveness question is this one. To make this paragraph most logical, sentence 5 should be placed. And this is an example of how, if it's just an organization. Like, do you know how a paragraph should be organized? Does this sentence work where it is? And if it's not, where should it be to make the paragraph organized? And that's just an example of effectiveness. And then just some overall tips about the writing section. My first tip is do not read the whole passage. For every question, read 1 to 2 sentences before the sentence in question. The only exception is when the paragraph or passage is numbered. And I'm going to show you what this means. So here we have an example. I'm going to program that lets me write on this, so that's why you see what you're seeing. Anyways, but so this is my first example. You see that we have this whole empty space right here, nothing on it, no questions relevant to it. Should we read it? No, you shouldn't read it. That's what my tip is. Don't read everything. Read only what you need. Read 1 to 2 sentences before the question. So here's the part that's in that is relevant to the question. At the very least, you need to read the sentence that includes the question. But my suggestion is that you read 1 or 2 sentences before that. So either start here or start here. Because then here's 1 sentence and 2 sentences before the sentence in question. Okay? And that's because you need to have context when you answer these questions. If you start reading here, you might miss the tense of you might miss the verbs, the verb tense that's in that sentence. You might miss the context. Maybe the sentence is relating to the sentence before, and then therefore there's a certain pattern they have to follow, things like that. So you need context. You need to know at least a little bit what's happening, what type of punctuation we have, what type of diction we have, what type of tone we have, stuff like that. So it's important that you read 1 to 2 sentences before. Not just the sentence that's in the question, not just this sentence right here, but 1 or 2 sentences before that. And that's because the reason we're doing that is because we have this big empty passage right here. But then in this example, you can see that we have the passages right here. We have a question here, a question here, question here, and question here, and they're all very close to each other. So in this question, if we try to read 1 or 2 sentences before, we'd be reading the paragraph before it, because this is the beginning of the paragraph. So in this case, it's okay to start right here, because it's the beginning of the paragraph. It's fine. So then you can just read this part for question 13, or I guess in this case, up to here, because we have here it's including both sentences. So you can just read that part for question 13. For question 14, we already read the sentence before, so it's fine. Let's just continue. Let's just do this part right here. Let's just do that part. And then for sentence 15, the sentence for question 15 starts right there. It ends right here. That's the whole sentence. But then we have to read 1 or 2 sentences before. So here's 1 sentence before, and here's 2 sentences before. But we already read this sentence for question 14. So for that matter, just read the whole paragraph. So in cases like this, where this passage is pretty small, there's a lot of questions in it, just read the whole paragraph. It doesn't matter. It's fine. But for questions, for parts like this, where you have this big empty space, there's no questions relating to it. Don't waste your time. You need that time to answer the questions and to think. Don't waste your time. Just don't read that. Read only what you need. In this case, you really do need the whole passage to answer all the questions, so it's fine. In this example, you see that we have numbers on the paragraph. This is numbering the sentences, and the reason you're going to see stuff like this is only if you get an effectiveness question where it asks you, should sentence 3 be placed where it is? If not, then where should it be placed? And then the answer choices are like after sentence 2 or after sentence 4. In this case, to be able to answer that question, you need to read the whole passage, or else you won't be able to answer the question. So if it's numbered, read the whole passage. So let me go back to the tip one more time and reread it. So remember, do not read the whole passage. You don't have to. For every question, read 1 or 2 sentences before it. And the only exception is when the paragraph or passage is numbered. Because when the paragraph or passage is numbered, it's going to look like this, and you need to read the whole passage to be able to answer that question. My next tip is make sure you have grammatical evidence or a fact to support the reason you choose an answer and the reason you don't choose an answer. Okay? So that means that I'm going to have videos and I'm going to teach you on the different grammar rules. So when you're taking the test, you're going to use those rules as evidence, as reasons to support it. If I was asking you, why did you answer A? The reason should not be because it looked correct. It seemed like it makes sense. No, your reason needs to be because you use commas this way, because there's this rule of commas says that you have to use it this way. Or this rule of punctuation says you have to use it this way. Or because we learned that blah, blah, blah. I need actual grammatical, factual evidence for reasons you choose something. This ensures that you're answering a question correctly. A lot of the times when we take a test, we can we take it, it seems like it makes sense, we choose it, and then later when we look at the answers, it was wrong, and then we realize, oh, that one actually wasn't accurate. The one we chose wasn't accurate. but it looked like it made sense. If it was true, it would have made sense, but it wasn't true. So it wasn't accurate. So then it's not the right answer. So this makes even more sense when it's math or when it comes to other subjects, but it also works with writing. So make sure that you always have grammatical evidence. And the question in this case, right here, why isn't it writing? Oh no, something happened. There we go. So in this case, 1 second. Okay, my pencil's not writing anymore. Anyways, so in this case, it's testing you whether you know the difference between reduct and deduct. So do you choose reductions or do you choose deducting or deducts? Well, you need to know what reduct means and what deduct means, right? So when you are going to answer this question, ask yourself, what does reduct mean? Okay, reduct means this. Is this what the sentence is trying to say? Deduct means this. Is this what the sentence is trying to say? You have to have evidence. You have to tell yourself, okay, it's C because deduct means this, and that's what the paragraph is trying to say. You can't just say, oh, I think it's deduct because it just makes sense. You have to tell yourself an actual reason, okay? My next tip is you have to know the rules. To do the part where you have evidence, you need to know the rules for grammar, and I'm going to teach you that. This tip is just to tell you that make sure you pay attention, make sure you actually make an effort to learn the rules, or else you won't be able to answer the questions. And then my next tip is answer the questions before looking at the answer choices. This saves you so much time. So especially when it comes to grammar and stuff like that, most of the time you already know it. You know that you have to use that word and not the other one, or you know that there's a mistake there. So just fix it in your head. A lot of times we fix it as we read it because we realize it's wrong. It's so wrong that our brain just fixes it. So then in that case, then just once you've fixed it, just look for an answer choice that looks like what you fix it to be. So for example, we can see the first sentence right here, more like a fair than an actual cafe. And see, even then, it's just my brain knows that it should be than, but they wrote then. So then I know it's fair than. So it's more like a fair than an actual cafe. The first repaired cafe took place in Amsterdam. So I already answered it, right? I already know that it should be fair than with an A. So I'm going to go to 38 and I'm going to look at the answer choices and look for the one that makes sense. The one that matches what I said, and it's B. B matches what I said, what I thought, fair than. I know it's not C because it's not fair like that. It's fair as in like a carnival. And then their comma shouldn't go there, so that one's wrong. So I answered it before. If you're really, really confident in yourself, you don't have to check the other questions and see like, wait, is C correct? Is D correct? If you're really confident, I personally, I wouldn't do that. I know that I know the rules, so I would just answer B and continue. That saves you so much time. So make sure you at least try to answer the question before you look at the answer choices, so that when you get to the answer choices, you know which one it is. You just grab it, mark it, continue. And then number 2, it was the brainchild of former journalist Martin Postma, who wanted to take a practical stand in a throwaway culture. So I think it's who wanted, because that's what it just doesn't make sense. My brain fixes it to be what it is. So it was the brainchild of former journalist Martin Postma, who wanted to take a practical stand in a throwaway culture. So I'm going to look for the answer choice in 39 that says who wanted, and I can see it's C, so I am confident in myself. I'm pretty sure that I got it right, so I'm going to continue. And then that's it. But if you had done it the other way, if you had read it and been like, okay, whom wants, plug it in. Who wanted, plug it in. She wanted, plug it in. Then that takes me a whole minute instead of just 5 seconds. And then that's a whole minute that I could use in another question that I'm really going to struggle with. So time is key here. Time is definitely key. And I think that is the end for this video. So hopefully you understood all those tips, and hopefully they made sense. Hopefully I explained them correctly. Hopefully you will be able to use them. And I'll see you in the next one.